exercise is good for you.
That's right. She encouraged us to visit Zambia. She said it's pretty awesome. And she's been there for 4 years ago, listening to us since then. And ours is one of her favorites. We take it.
Definitely.
That is Kristen T, worldbicyclerelief.org.
That's great. Thank you, Kristen. We appreciate that. Well, if you have something you've always been curious about, and not something stupid, but something like cool that we could possibly answer, we want to know. Don't be stupid.
I'm curious how a thermos works. How does it know, hot or cold?
Also, if you, that's not stupid, I just can't answer that.
It's insulation. It doesn't matter if it's hot or cold. It's just insulated.
Oh, a thermos. I thought you meant a thermometer. Gotcha. So if you have something you're curious about, tell us. We want to know, and we'll try to figure it out. And if you have a podcast that if we had to podcast the same podcast over and over and over again, what would it be? We want to know. Whether we've recorded it or not, maybe it'll bring up a good idea. Send those to stuffpodcast@howstuffworks.com.
Be sure to check out our new video podcast, Stuff from the Future. Join How Stuff Works staff as we explore the most promising and perplexing possibilities of tomorrow.
Listen to podcasts on the go with Stitcher Smart Radio. With Stitcher's free app for mobile phones, you can get your favorite How Stuff Works shows and thousands of other podcasts on demand without downloading or syncing. Find
Welcome to Stuff You Should Know from HowStuffWorks.com.
Hey, and welcome to the podcast. I'm Josh Clark. With me, as always, is Charles W. Chuck Bryant. And that makes this Stuff You Should Know, the podcast.
Not the radio show,
No, this not yet. It probably will be eventually, this one.
though. Yeah, I bet you they'll speed this one through, man.
You know what's crazy is we could say right now, hello, WFMU listeners. So that when this is repurposed into our radio show on WFMU, it'll blow their minds.
What you're speaking of is we're on WFMU in New York. If you live in the New York, New Jersey area, 91.1, you can hear us Fridays from 7 to 8 p.m. now.
That's not at all what I was speaking of.
Or Hudson Valley at 90.1.
You got the call signs all over the place, don't you?
2 stations.
You have it tattooed on your tricep.
I'm going to do that. They're going to rush this one. They're going to see, I'm not even going to say the topic, even though people already know because they clicked on it, but they're going to see that and go, oof, we need to get this on the air.
Yeah. Oh, Chuck, and speaking of radio and New York, right?
Yeah.
We've got pretty big news. So Sirius XM, the largest radio conglomerate on the planet, is hosting a Stuff You Should Know About America weekend, starring us.
That's right.
Did you get your caviar?
I did not, Josh, but that's channel 104. You can hear us on Sirius XM all holiday weekend, as I understand it.
Yes.
And we are doing a live show to kick it off Friday, July 1st, which is next week. And we're going to be joined by some very special guests from The Onion and possibly other places. And we want fans to come. We need an audience. So check out the Facebook page. We're going to have information there on how you can attend. And
yeah, please do so.
So back to Shrunken Heads.
Chuck, remember we also did one on cannibalism before.
Yeah, this is related.
Well, I relate the two in the introduction of this article in Shrunken Heads, right? So there's, those two things really probably are equated with pre-civilized barbarism, savagery, more than anything else, right?
Agreed. And this is just as gruesome, we should point out. That's our little warning.
Okay.
Done.
But with cannibalism, there's a lot of dispute over exactly how and when it was practiced. Like, we do know there is evidence that people have eaten other people in the past, but we're starting to think that it was never in any kind of ritual form, where basically it was like, we're enduring some horrible climate change and famine, and so we're going to figure out how to justify this through, like, warring with neighbors and feeding ourselves with their dead bodies. For nutrition. But the jury's still out as to whether or not cannibalism was ever practiced in any real, mass form by any culture.
Right.
That's not the case with head shrinking. Head shrinking is this weird little cultural trait, I guess, that is specific to one culture as far as we know. And we know that culture because we could go down to Ecuador right now and meet some of them.
Yeah.
The Shuar culture.
Yeah, I got a few tribes that did it, but they're the main daddies.
So what you're talking about is there's evidence that other tribes did practice it in pre or para-Columbian contact.
Yeah.
And that evidence is like it's shown in tapestries, or that tribe's art or something. There's only one tribe that's documented as having done it, and that's the Shuar.
And only one that did it really, really well.
Yeah, they're pretty good at it. And if you're going to look up Shuar and you run across Javaro Shuar, it's the same people as Shuar are members of the Javaro language group.
Yeah, and that's apparently kind of a slam, that word Jawara. It's like a corruption of that.
What, Shuar?
Those people, yeah. It was, I think it meant like uncivilized or something, and
Like Eskimo.
yeah, maybe so.
Blubber eaters, remember?
Yeah. And the Nazis may have done it too.
May have named the Shuar?
No, maybe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they found some at Buchenwald, and even presented that at the Nuremberg trials as like, hey, look what these guys did.
Yeah, they did all sorts of messed up stuff. There's a bar of soap in Canada that's supposedly made from the fat of a concentration camp.
Really? I should say it's alleged, though. They never pinpointed and said the shrunken head came from Jews from Buchenwald, but it's,
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's very few incredibly strange, exotic things that a culture has done that we can say, yes, definitively, these people did do this.
Right.
It hasn't been blown up by Hollywood or anything like that. This is legitimate, and shrunken heads are that kind of thing. And the reason why the Shuar were able to shrink heads and get really good at it over the years was because even after contact with Europeans, like the Spanish coming into South America, the Shuar were one of the very few groups that managed to repel any kind of Spanish colonialism.
Yeah.
Like, they lived under Spanish rule for, I think, like 30 or 33 years, and then frankly said, we're tired of being taxed for our gold, so we're just going to kill a lot of you.
Yeah, and it worked.
Yeah, there was a revolt, right?
Yeah, they killed like 25,000 people, and then Spain, was it just Spain, I guess, said, you're just going to get out of here. Yeah, you guys are good.
Exactly, and that's really saying something, considering the amount of gold ore that the Shuar's like land sat on.
Right, yeah, the Spaniards love their gold.
So the Spaniards were like, okay, we know you're in there, and we're going to leave you alone. You go do whatever you want to do. The Shuar just continued to practice head hunting and head shrinking. Head hunting practiced all over the world, right?
Yeah.
The head shrinking, Shuar only, as far as
I'd like to hear
documentation goes.
the meetings with the Spaniards. They probably at first were like, no, and then they were like, it's not that much gold.
Exactly. You can get gold elsewhere.
Exactly.
Yeah, we'll hold the Incas hostage. I'm reading 1491 again right now.
Really?
It's pretty important.
I was hoping to read that before you read it again.
Sorry.
I never picked it up, though, because that's the first step.
I even went and bought a book like special for this book.
Oh, yeah? One of those little clip-on deals?
Yeah.
Very nice.
Works like a champ. So, Chuck, why would anybody shrink a head? I mean, obviously they're just big dumb
It looks
savages
fucking
who
cool.
like to shrink heads, right? I mean, there can't possibly be any explanation behind this.
Not true, Josh, because as you point out, because you wrote this awesome article,
Oh, yeah.
so you know the answer, but that's just our shtick.
I was acting.
They are firmly rooted in magic and spiritualism and war, and from an early age, little boys are taught like retribution, violent retribution is a really good thing, and it's a part of our culture.
Yeah, and if you don't carry out violent retribution properly, your dead uncle or your dead grandfather or whatever, your dead ancestor is going to come back and bring, horrible pestilence and famine on you.
Yeah.
You're in trouble.
So they do it for a reason. They do it to, I guess, ward off those spirits, right? Or to finalize the whole thing.
Yeah, well, so it's part of this larger process, it's part of this bigger belief, which is if you die, if we're related and you die of some unseen like disease, right? Let's say you die of cancer.
Okay.
It's not cancer. It's somebody else in another household, another Shuar household, bewitched you and using magic killed you remotely.
Yes.
So, since there's no priestly class among Shuar culture, like anybody can consult with the spirits under the right circumstances. The right circumstances being you take hallucinogenic drugs. I would take a hallucinogenic drug, probably Natema, right?
Yeah, it's from a jungle vine.
Yes, a jungle vine that gets you lit.
Yeah, and I want to point out, I love that from a jungle vine, like hallucinogenic mushrooms, it's like, you name it, some human has found a way to get every bit of every single thing on the earth if it can mess you up.
Don't forget toads.
Yeah, look at those.
Yeah.
We don't recommend that, by the way.
No. Although I was listening to an old episode and you talked about your hallucinogenic toad collection in college. And you just like to collect toads. It was funny. I remember that. So, I suspect that you died because you were bewitched, and now I've taken the Tema, and I'm on a vision quest. And I'm consulting with your spirit, maybe some other spirits, to find out who killed you. And then I'm going to come down and be like, oh, it was George down the river. Right? So now I have a blood vendetta against George. Jorge, thank you. And I'm going to assemble other households in the area into a confederation to go take your head, George.
To make it right.
Jorge. Yeah, because if I don't, then you, my dead relative, are going to haunt me.
Yeah.
And bad things are going to happen. And plus, it's just a matter of, like, that's what our culture calls for.
Yeah,
So,
and you said they'll even tell the other tribes sometimes, like, we're coming for you.
yeah, they'll alert the other household of plans because this isn't like a quick thing. It's very well planned.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people involved. And it's very violent and bloody when it finally does happen. But yeah, they'll say, we're coming after you. You're in big trouble. And there may be retribution, but more likely than not, it's going to be like, well, you probably shouldn't have killed his uncle.
Oh, really? Because
Yeah.
that was going to be my question. Isn't this just an endless loop of head shrinking and cutting and shrinking?
Well, it is. Like, it's supported by death, but it's generally non-violent death that they associate with magic or bewitchment, which really requires this specific type of retribution. Okay?
Gotcha. So revenge will take place. I see you also pointed out that maybe the whole household is slaughtered. Maybe they'll take the women as wives.
Yeah.
And we're not really sure. Like, they used to take wives further back. Is that the deal?
That some old account said that these guys are polygamous, which they are.
Right.
Shuar are polygamous. So if they do carry out one of these raids, they're going to take the women as their wives. But then a more recent one from, I think, the 70s or 80s or something later in the 20th century said, no, they kill everybody they find in this household. They just don't take little kids' heads, but they'll kill the little kids.
Yeah, but they don't take the head. I like that even they have a line or a draw.
Not much shrinking to be done. They like to really shrink
Oh, I wonder if that has something to do with it. But a little... never mind, I'm not going to go there.
So there's a specific way that all this is going to go down, right?
Very specific.
Because Shuar don't live near one another. They live over a pretty substantial area of the Amazon basin.
Yeah, there's no high-rise full of